Hi there, Chase Urick with my partner in crime, Cole McCoy, bringing you guys another episode of EFES In The Trenches. This is episode 34. We're super excited today because we've got a very, very special guest with us. Cole McCoy's buddy, my buddy, everybody's buddy, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. 50K a month, Roger Chan. Roger, we appreciate you joining us today, buddy.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to recap what we talked about last week. We had a special guest last week as well. We had Josh Boyce on with us. It was a pleasure having Josh. Cole, what did we talk about last week?
Yeah, we had Josh on last week, and he absolutely killed it, Chase. We were speaking on selling during the holidays and the excuses that can come up. You know, it gets dark earlier. People get busy around the holidays. They don't have money because they spent all of it on Christmas. And the reality is that if you're willing to step into that you can have your best months around the holidays. And so we completely obliterated, hopefully, any objections that you've created in your mind as to why you're not able to do things during the holidays. And if you haven't checked that out yet, go back to episode 33. I think it can be some big time firepower for your business.
Absolutely. That was one of my favorite episodes. I thought you guys did fantastic in explaining it. And it was nice to have a guest on with us, as we've been alluding to. So today what we're going to talk about is we want to kind of give perspective here. We've given tips, training tips. Don't log out right now if you don't think you're going to get any mechanical training items that are going to help your business. I promise you. What you're going to get today is you're going to get perspective from high-level producers. As I mentioned before, I said it jokingly, but also it was serious. Roger Chan broke the all-time individual producer production mark for 1 month worth of numbers. And he did it, what made it look like just easily. He'll tell you it wasn't easy, but you've got him, and then you've also got Cole, who you've known about since we started doing this show. Cole's a monster producer. Both guys, agency builders in the business as well. They've been doing it for some time. They've been on the captive side of the business, now on the independent side doing their thing. I'm excited about this because we're going to be able to kind of extract some really good information from each one of them for you, the viewer. So we want to start off with, when it comes to the perspective, I want to start off with maybe some of the lighthearted moments, some of the fun moments that you've seen in this business when you were out doing what you do. Something that, may just kind of give somebody out there a chuckle, an experienced Cole McCoy that, did you get a rake swung at you when you were told to leave, or, something that took place? We'll kick it off with you.
Yeah, one of my favorite appointments ever was a guy that probably had some mental things he just was never diagnosed with. He was freaking hilarious. I remember going into the appointment, and he's singing at the top of his lungs some Leonard Skinner song, and he's cooking dinner, and he says, "Go grab a guitar and sit down." I'm like, didn't even know that I played guitar. He just, "Go grab one." And he was like vetting me for the first 20 minutes. And I remember this dude, his name was Dave. He was like, You're not here to spy on me from the government, are you? I can't lose my disability benefits." And I was with this guy for, oh my gosh, hour and a half, 2 hours. And it was just this back and forth where I'm literally closing a deal, hanging over a guitar, pretending like I can play it well. And I remember it clear as day. I had my iPad in front of me with a guitar in my lap. And by the time we're done, I mean, I think it was a $150 a month app. So it was a good one. And, he's like giving me a hug, and he's like, "I love you, brother." And it was just this dude was a good old boy. So I'm trying to get out of there. And this guy's like, "Hey, I bet you $20 I can get closer to that wood pile than you." And he's getting out golf balls, and we're like hitting golf shots in his backyard. It's like, that's one of those ones where it's like, I'll still stop by and check up on him. I just know that when I stop by, my day is over, because he's gonna take up my whole night. But one of those dudes that's just hilarious. He's fun to hang out with. He's always got a song he's singing, and he's probably got a couple screws loose that he would completely admit. But those are moments that you just have a lot of fun doing this, and you kind of become friends with your clients. And so that's something that I'll always cherish for sure.
That kind of goes back to what we talked about last week when it comes to just spending that time with them. If they're talking more than you, you're probably going to make that sale. Giving them that time, developing that rapport, because it could make their day, make their week, make their month, that you're there. And obviously you guys became buds, hitting some golf balls. That's actually quite funny. Roger, situation where whether you first got into the business last week, that kind of gave you a chuckle or a laugh that stuck with you?
Yeah, one that pops up into my head just a couple weeks ago. Me, Richard Landis, and my buddy Josh, we had all gone down to Memphis, Tennessee to run some leads, and we were just dispersing leads amongst us, and it turns out I had an appointment, and my buddy Josh Quintanilla, he was out door knocking. We're all working in Memphis, and I park up my car to hit up my next appointment, and as I walk out, I'm looking in the distance. I see the house that I'm supposed to be going to. An agent comes out. I see an agent come out of the house, and I'm like, oh, geez, this guy just saw an agent. So as I get closer, I'm looking down at my leads, and then I hear someone call my name. And I look up. The guy who was walking out of the house is Josh Quintanilla to my appointment. I just look up. I said, hey, Josh. And it was just really funny. We both started cracking up right there because he walked out. He didn't get the sale. He told me exactly what happened. And for some reason, our leads just got crossed. And that kind of stuck out as one of the funnier moments being out in the field that just kind of stayed with me. But, aside from that, I mean, we run into all types of crazy stuff when we're out there in the field. Mm-hmm. One that's client related was I knocked on the door, and the guy opened the door. He was completely naked, and I mean, just wearing nothing. But it was one of those setups where the couch was on the side, so he kind of swung the door open, and I was looking at him on the side. His wife wasn't there, so I just didn't want to go in with him being completely naked, so I rescheduled the appointment.
Oh, then I can only imagine. All right, so kind of getting away from the funny situations that we've run into, I appreciate you guys sharing those with us. Let's talk about some of the captivating maybe memories and situations that you've run into that you'd like to share with those out there watching and paying attention here. Captivating situations where, you helped somebody out who was in a situation where they obviously needed it. Maybe they passed away, it was utilized, or something you felt was something that stuck with you, that kind of pulled on the heartstrings a little bit. Roger, anything in particular that sticks out to you as long as you've been doing this?
Yeah, it was actually one of my first clients back when I was still a captive agent. Back where I was selling before, we focused a lot on Medicare supplements. That was like our main product, not the final expense. So I come from a strong Medicare background. Mainly working with supplements before Medicare Advantage, and I remember we would dial down these leads, so to speak. It was just a list of people turning 65, and I must have been calling this person. I called this person a lot. Finally got the appointment, and when I got there, this person, this lady was in open enrollment with what was deemed at the time terminal brain cancer, and she ended up getting a Medicare supplement. And luckily that we caught her within that that 7-month time frame of open enrollment, where she was able to get that Medicare supplement without any underwriting. And to me, that just kind of stuck out because if it wasn't for that time period, she wouldn't be eligible for almost anything out there aside from maybe like a Medicare Advantage plan, but it just wouldn't cover the things that she needed to take care of on the medical side of things without totally devastating them financially. So that was kind of one that really stuck out with me, simply because it was one of my first initial clients coming into the business, but as well as it's something that she really needed. I knew she needed, and they knew they needed, and ended up getting it and was able to fully utilize it to their benefit.
That's awesome. How about you, Cole?
Yeah, mine actually is tied around the Medicare side of things as well. It was a final expense appointment, and obviously compliance was a factor here. So there was a couple different appointments with these people, but it was Gary and Debbie, and I sat down with them and went over they sent a card back for life insurance and went over the different programs. And they said, Cole, we know we need something. We don't have anything, but I mean, sincerely, we were getting ready to file bankruptcy. Like, we don't have any money. And I was like, oh my gosh, what happened? Well, they're like, a few months ago, we got prescribed these medications and our insurance doesn't cover them. And I mean, we're paying $500 plus a month out of pocket for our meds. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So make a really long story short, what it had transpired there, we were able to get them in the right Medicare plan, where their out-of-pocket cost went from over 500 down to like 34, 35 a month, using some different things, like with extra help and those types of items. And by the time it was all said and done, I mean, they were able to spend money and protect their families. Well, Gary actually just died earlier this year. And, I have a great relationship with them, and it was super sad. I actually had sat down with Gary 3 or 4 times, and we had to switch some things around a couple years later. But that was a moment where I realized that, what I've learned and what I'm able to do is probably not like what these people have encountered before. They're just used to somebody pushing something on them and, hard closing them to close a deal, and then they don't hear from them again. And these folks sincerely became friends, and not only did they get the protection they needed, but when it was needed the most, the coverage was there and took care of them. And those are stories that it just solidifies your conviction on why you're doing what you're doing, and it just makes it easier on the hard days, like knowing that there's somebody out there that you can put in a great situation, but also make great money while doing it. And that interaction has, financially was wonderful, but also for them, I think it changed a lot of things. I mean, they kept their house even after all those savings. I mean, it's after Gary passed it out, now they're trying to figure it out. But that was something that, had we not found those savings, they probably would have gotten rid of that house. So
I can remember, I think it was in 2009. I had Eric had sent me to a house on someone who had filled a lead out. He's like, hey, this is just right down the road from you. You want to go run it? And I'm 23, somewhere around there. And I had gone to a house, and I had visited with a husband and wife. And I got a call back about a week later after getting them taken care of. Mom had just moved in with them. Mom was living in a facility prior. Nothing wrong with her, no health issues, but they wanted to get mom coverage. And they said, nothing's wrong with mom. Her health's great. I think she was on like one medication, and she was like 76 years old. And this will kind of stick out to me because no matter how good things are, how bad things are, I do remember this particularly coming through and happening. It was an eye opener for me. Mom was healthy. I went through everything with her. We got her covered. Everything was good. I got a phone call. I think it was 20 months into her having her policy, so inside the 2 years, and she had passed away. After never having any medical problems, she passed away in her sleep. And I remember this was my first interaction with dealing with an insurance carrier within a 2-year claim and having to get that money for the family. First, this was out of the blue. Mom passed away. It was very abrupt for them. But then having to deal with the carrier. And I remember, I'm going to give them a shout out. I normally wouldn't do it, but I'm going to. American Amicable was the company that I had written back then. And regardless of the size of the policy, there were no ifs, ands, or buts. They took care of it. They did their due diligence, I'm sure. But the team out in Waco, they cut that check, and Linda was the daughter's name, the wife that I'd written up first, called me and said, I can't believe how quickly this has happened, and I appreciate you tremendously. I will never forget being Switzerland. That's kind of the nickname I have here. I'll never forget that feeling of, man, I hope that happens. I hope that's the way it goes for my mother and my father. I hope that the insurance company comes through and does what they said they're going to do, just as American Amicable has done here. That for me was, from the client perspective as well as the carrier, like that was kind of what set the table for me. Having already been in the business for a few years prior, that was a big deal to me. So those types of things.
I think that's a good point, Base. A lot of, especially with a lot of new agents, just coming into the biz, they start writing final expense policies, and they haven't been in the business long enough to start getting death claims yet. So it's kind of, our clients don't really know how much they need it, and it's kind of, we're there to help them, not really push them, but just kind of help them take action, take that buying decision. Because I also had people that I've written up where even the relative will give me a call and they'll say, oh well, hey, my grandparent didn't need this, or my mom or dad didn't need this, I want you to cancel it. And then on more than one occasion, a couple weeks or a couple months later, there will be a death claim. And it's because that, we help them take that buying action, that, no one ever comes back and says, oh, well, you should have canceled this, but hey, look, I got a $10,000 check, right? So, I mean, I think that's a really important point, that, what our work isn't really, a lot of times we don't realize, or newer agents may not realize the importance of it until they actually see those death claims being paid out.
We're dealing in a business of mortality, and it's not fun to talk about. It's not fun to deal with, but it's something that when we do have to deal with it, it makes you feel good that you did it the right way. I know both of you guys in particular, you have great quality of business, and you take a lot of pride in how you handle and work with your clients. I want to get to something that I know our audience is going to absolutely love. This is where they're going to get pen and paper handy if they didn't already. We're going to talk about some of the game changers that you two have noticed in your business. Things that happened to you throughout this path down the road to success to get to where you're able to produce it at an elite level and eventually become leaders of the agencies that you're building and growing. Let's talk about some of the things that you've noticed along the way that have been game changers for your business. Now, Roger, you had thrown out something a moment ago when we were doing some prep for this. Opportunity cost. Share with Cole and I what you mean by opportunity cost.
Yeah, sure. So opportunity cost, and that's, I guess, my way of explaining it is what could be done with the time that I'm doing right now. Is this time being utilized effectively, or is my time better spent doing something else? So one of the main, I guess, points is opportunity cost when it comes to actually sitting with a quality client or a time waster or a time vampire, because they're just wasting your time. And one of the things for me, and the things that I like to train to my agents is, one of the most important parts of the presentations is asking the 3 reasons as to why they sent the card in. And if they're unable to provide a reason for why they sent the card in, and they'll do this all the time. They'll say something like, oh, well, you know what, I don't know why I filled it out. I guess I was just kind of checking to see what was out there. Well, unfortunately, that's not a valid reason. Okay, so at that point, then yeah, I'll go ahead and I'll ask one more time. Well, Mary, in order for me to get a better idea of how I might be able to assist you today, when you sent the card in, what was the primary motivation in doing so? Were you looking to add coverage, consolidate coverage, or lower your monthly bill? And at that point, if they're able to give me a reason, game on. I'm going to continue on with the presentation. But if they still don't give me a good reason as to why they sent the card in, or they don't know why, then at that point, I'm going to end the appointment, and I'm simply going to walk out of the house. And I think one of the big mistakes that a lot of newer agents make is that they, even if they are unable to obtain one of the reasons why the client sent the card in, they'll still stay in the house and still try to pitch the client, try to make the sale when they have no ground to sell them on. If you have no ammunition to sell them on. If they don't have a need that you cannot fulfill, you're probably not going to make the sale. And that's what I mean by opportunity cost. The time being spent with the client that's in front of you that is not probably just a time waster is better spent leaving the house as soon as possible, trying to find a better quality client.
It's good stuff. That's really, really good. Cole, you want to chime in on that?
Yeah, I guess I just want to hear Roger kind of share more. Like, when did you learn, like, what was the moment for you where that lesson became so poignant to you, where it was like, oh my gosh, like, my time is valuable. I need to spend it in front of qualified people that actually want to value me as a person. Like, where did that click happen for you?
Well, that happened to me when I came over to EFES. And, you know, when I first came over in October 2016, we didn't have nearly the amount of resources that we have now. Even also, you know, coming here, you know, there were no health cheat sheets, no company cheat sheets. The group chat was just starting to come around, but there was the morning training calls. That was always there. And I was on the morning training calls religiously. And back at where I used to sell at the old place that I came from, the entire business model was you would go in and you would spend a minimum of 2 hours in the house with the client. And, you know, coming over here to EFES, my average time in a house is anywhere between 20 to 45 minutes, maybe 1 hour tops on a single person, and about, you know, an hour, about 45 minutes to an hour and a half for a husband-wife couple. And it was really, when I was spending so much time in the house before, the training over here, you know, we trained to bring the 3 reasons out early. So it wasn't until coming to EFES I realized that I'm able to get in and out of a lot more houses in a shorter amount of time, and do it much more efficiently for a much higher commission. So that's kind of what my turning point was. Just coming over to EFES, just the entire model of the final expense presentation from start to close was very different than Medicare, where I came from. Medicare supplements, doing a needs analysis, financial breakdown. It was just a very different type of sale. So that was kind of when things kind of changed over for me.
That's big. I know that coming from where you came from, you were doing more of a pie chart. What all do you have in the home? And you were kind of putting the cart before the horse in a lot of situations, and you just got to know them. You didn't even build the rapport yet. So, Cole, I want to kind of turn it to you, my man. In terms of a game changer for you, one particular item that you had come across that really kind of flipped the switch for you and made you see, wow, I didn't notice this before. This is big. This is going to impact me and my career down the road.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's kind of smack dab in the middle of my story on how I even am still in the business, because I've almost failed a lot. And yeah, I guess I could start like when I transitioned, you know, I transitioned career, like I feel like I transitioned majorly a couple times, and I started in the captive channel, then transitioned to the independent channel on the Medicare side. But I was only doing Medicare, and the cash flow, I was working 3 jobs to pay my bills plus trying to build my business. And I had a final expense opportunity in front of me. I saw what the power of marketing dollars would do, like when you buy leads, just simply buying leads, putting your money where your mouth is and going and seeing qualified people. And I mean, I had nothing. We were living on my wife's salary, and then anything that I could bring in. I mean, I was grinding, trying to keep my head above water to build this business and this dream that I thought was real, to where I could help my wife stay home and eventually be a mom. And you know, she's she's got aspirations to start a business, and these were all hopes and dreams at that point. And I was just, you know, racking my brain trying to figure this out. And but I saw all these people writing $6,000, $8,000, $10,000, $12,000 a week, and the only common factor between them, it wasn't geography, it wasn't ethnicity, it wasn't age, it wasn't even skill set. The only common denominator between these people was that they were buying leads every weekend. And so I was trying to do like senior seminars to save up money, and I was going to different, you know, homes and all those types of things, but it just wasn't getting traction. And I initially just said, enough is enough. This is either going to work or it's not. And I put my money where my mouth was. I didn't even have money. I went and took out a bad personal loan, like one of the ones that are high interest, like not even like a good one. And I think it was like a 33% interest rate. It was stupid. And
Wow.
I couldn't even get a credit card. Like I was in a bad way. And I put everything down on leads, and I didn't fully understand how the program worked at that time. And so I was basically out of money. I didn't have more money for leads. I was down to my last probably 25 leads. And it was just a moment where I was like, you know what? Either this is going to work or it's not. I just was kind of my mantra there for a couple months. And either I'm going to go crush it and make a bunch of money, or I'm going to go sell cell phones at AT&T and make 50 grand a year and be happy. And so I just kind of, I don't know an appropriate way to say this, but I kind of had
Let loose.
I just had a complex that says I don't care anymore. I'm just gonna see what happens here. and anyway, yeah, I went out over a weekend and back against the wall. And I remember there's one particular appointment. There's this old guy named Lawrence, and he was real rough at the door, like didn't really want to talk, like he was this whole thing. And I just remember he's like, well, look, if you can beat this here for me, then hey, I'll go with you. And it was a really expensive company. This quote was like $250 a month. And I showed him what that 250 would do with me. And he went for it. And I'm like, what is happening? Like, I'm making money. What? And that weekend I wrote $6,000 in premium. And that was December of 2016. So 3 years ago. I haven't looked back, and it's been a wonderful journey. And fast. So that was like my aha moment of, dude, you can do this. You've got the hustle, you've got the mindset, you've got the ability. You have the right people on your side. Just go and get it. And it was just getting that one high premium case was like, whoa, this dude's trusting me with $3,000 a year. It's like, wow. So that for me has been huge. And since then, I mean, I've shared my story, or I don't know, but my wife has quit her job and she's starting her own business where she's raising funds to help fight human trafficking. And I mean, she's incredible, but like all that was possible by like saying yes to that risk 3 years ago and putting myself in that position where I had no other way out.
You bet on that was huge. That's the biggest thing is you went all in on yourself.
Yep.
And
so what made you, I mean, you said yourself, right? Like you said that you didn't really know the system, right? So, I mean, why would you even take that risk? Because I know a lot of newer agents, they struggle with that. We're going to buy leads. We don't know if we're going to make sales or not. So what was it that made you do it?
I saw a ton of people doing it and making money. And it's like either these people are just BSing me to try and get more people and they're making money on their leads, which unfortunately happens, not here, or they're actually writing business and like they're making money. I was like, I got to figure this out. I have no other options. Like I dropped out of college. I've been working part-time at 3 different jobs and trying to do insurance. Like, what's the worst that could happen? I fail again, and and out of the ashes, the phoenix will rise, I guess. But
sometimes you just got to jump in. Like back when I first came here, the group chat was just starting to come around.
Mm-hmm.
I was asking before then, where I came from, we were just big on sitting in an office setting, just calling to make appointments, just dial up, upwards of $200 a day. And it was just kind of like beating your head on a wall. So when I came over here, I didn't know what to do. I was still doing kind of the same thing because I didn't know any better. And door knocking was just a completely foreign concept to me. But, I saw all these other high-level producers doing it. And I had never written more than $12,000 a month before coming over to EFES. And, I just asked a question in the group chat. I said, hey, what are you guys, are you guys more calling to set appointments, or are you guys door knocking or what? And, a couple of the guys were like, oh, door knocking 100%. And another guy was like, I don't even remember the last time I picked up a phone. So I remember this specifically. It was March. I believe it was March of 2017. I said, you know what? Forget it. I'm not even going to pick up the phone. I'm going to try what these guys are doing. I'm just going to door knock all my leads and let's just see what happens. So March of that year, my first month of going out just straight door knocking, not even using the phone, I wrote a little over 36,000, and it was just kind of an eye opener to me. And I said, this is very simple. All I'm doing is I'm taking my leads and I'm just knocking, just systematically hitting each lead one by one, eliminating them. And this is the result. And I just kept doing that, and to a very high level. So, I mean, it can be a very simple business. It's just as simple as just taking your leads and knocking. And I think a lot of times we can overcomplicate things when, it's really not that complicated. It's very simple. You just got to step out the door and do it. That's all.
You can't tell that part of it and us not go into the other part of it. You are the Terminator when it comes to door knocking. I do remember when you decided to pick the phone up and start dialing as well. And correct me and interject if I'm wrong here at any point, but this is the way I remember the story. I remember us having a conversation and you were like, look, dude, I'm a door knocker. I don't anticipate picking the phone up and dialing. This is how I do my business. And then Jensen had posted that he was going to be doing a live dialing session. And you and I had a conversation, and if I'm convoluting the story, please let me know. But I remember us talking about it and saying, dude, just jump on and listen to how he does it. We're going to have Jensen on eventually. And you guys out there, you'll get a full dose of Jensen. We all love him on this podcast.
Strap up, boys.
You will get a full dose. You'll have to buckle up and get ready. But Jensen pulls no punches. He's very straightforward. And if I remember correctly, you jumped on that dialing session and you hit me up later that night or the next morning and you were like, yeah, I'm going to do both. I'm confident. I know how to door knock. I'm going to do both now. And since then, it's a whole different ball game. You're efficient and you are a monster at both methods now because you mastered one and then you incorporated, the other after mastering and becoming great at one of them. Did I remember that correctly?
Right. Yeah. No. I jumped on that call. I remember it so clearly, like it was yesterday, and simply because as soon as that call was done, I said, all right, the script was still fresh in my head. I said, all right, let's try it right now. Jumped off, hopped into the lead center, pulled up a whole bunch of old leads that I just never found at the door on a door knock. So I just hit them all up, filtered them out by zip code, brought up a whole bunch of leads from the same zip code. And just that first session coming off the training call, I set 8 appointments within like 40 minutes for the very next day. And at that point I said, well, you know what, the script works, and I'm just going to roll with it. So I think it's important that, the door knocking, it will always, what I kind of consider to be my rifle, and the phone is sort of like my sidearm, my pistol. They both work, right? But when you combine the two, that's when you really start seeing the magic happen. And it's kind of like you do one and then you clean up with the other. What most of us who are hybrid agents like to do is we pick up the phone, get all the easy ones out the way, and then clean up the rest of the door knocking. But if there was one thing that I had to do for the rest of my career, I mean, you guys know as well as I do, it's going to be straight up knocking on the door. But the phone calling is definitely a useful tool to add into. I would say once you have become efficient with door knocking, because door knocking is definitely the rifle, in my opinion.
What are you going to do tomorrow if law is passed and you're not allowed to pick the phone up and call people? What are you going to do?
You're going to bang on doors.
You're knocking on the doors. Cole,
Right.
I've called you many a times on a Saturday, and I'm like, hey, man, you got appointments? No, I'm just out knocking. You're right there with Roger. You were nodding your head along. You kind of share that same ideology, right?
Yeah, I mean, but when the master's talking, I'm going to listen, man. I would never profess to be as good as Jensen on the phone or as good as Roger at the door, but I can attest to everything he's saying. Get the easy ones on the phone or the ones that aren't answering the door, and then go be willing to pound pavement. Where agents fail is, they get beat up one day and all of a sudden every lead is bad. And these leads suck, and Roger's getting all the good leads. That's why he's making the sales. And you got to be willing to just do what it takes. And if you're not, I mean, what are we even talking about here?
Yeah, for all the MMA fans out there, I like to talk to new producers about, what do you recommend? my recommendation is, like, wrestling is door knocking. If you can have a good wrestling base and you can control the fight and you cannot get dominated physically, you're going to be solid. Now, the knockout artists, those are your appointment setting machines. Those are the guys that can knock you out with one shot. There's days where that one shot ain't working, but what are you going to do? I'm going to grind this out for 3 rounds and get the W. That's probably a terrible analogy if you're not an MMA fan, but sorry, just deal with it. Any closing shots? This has been a fun one. We're definitely going to have to do this again, Cole. We got to have this guy on with us again. Any closing shots? Anything you guys want to throw out? Look at him get quiet. Look at him.
I can't think of anything.
Well, we're right at that 35-minute mark. There's so much more we can go into, but we'll save that for another episode. Roger, thanks as always. Appreciate you spending some time with us. Cole McCoy, appreciate you being my partner in crime on this podcast, man.
Yeah, boys. Have a good rest of the day.
All right, if you're out there watching right now and you have not hit subscribe, you're wondering what the heck did you just see, we have a lot of content. All you got to do is go to EFES Nation, hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell up there, and get plugged in. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to see a like and a comment left below, and we appreciate you guys tuning in.